Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to be going through a list of who's who on set. So if you are planning, hoping or will be working on a film or TV set anytime in the future as a makeup artist, I'm hoping that this video will just give you a little bit more info about who's who and what they do and what their roles are, and that will just help you to be a little bit more informed before you get there. So the first thing that we just need to establish is the size of the production. Depending on what you're filming, depending on the size of the production and the budget and what it's for, will affect the size of the crew. So what you'll probably find is on a bigger set that's a much bigger production, you might find you've got more people doing varying different roles, and on a really big production you might get several people with the same job title, but they'll have different dedicated sort of roles within that title. I'll explain a little bit more of that as we go on. On a smaller set, it's sort of the opposite. So what you might get is less people, and you might have certain people doing multiple job roles. And then you've kind of got everything in between. So it's definitely worth establishing who's who when you arrive on set, and just kind of be aware that not every single film set or TV set is going to have the same amount of crew and the same kind of variation in job roles, but it's still good to understand what everybody does. So we'll start first with the producer. The producer is involved in all aspects of the production, so from the initial development of the project right through to when it's actually finished and wrapped, edited and completed. They're responsible normally for hiring staff, they're responsible for organising financing and distribution. The role often requires a lot of business knowledge, and it tends to have a lot to do with the business of filmmaking in general, or TV making in general. And one of the things you might find is that you have more than one producer on a production. So on those larger scale productions you might have more than one person acting as producer, and again in dedicated different roles. So the executive producer is also part of the production, but in a slightly different way. So they tend to play a bigger role in the financial and the creative elements of a production. They might not be heavily involved in the day-to-day technical work, and you might find that on a production there's multiple executive producers. So if you have a look at credits on films that you love or TV shows that you love, you might notice that there's quite a long list of executive producers. Your executive producer might also be working on more than one thing at once as well. So the project you're on is likely not going to be the only thing that they are currently exec producer on. Line producer. So the line producer is usually a key liaison between the production company, the studio, the producer, the client, the production manager. They tend to have budget responsibilities for the production, along with other sort of, again, more management based responsibilities. So the line producer is sort of like they're kind of like a bit of a nerve centre, passing information backwards and forwards between the various parties. The production manager is normally somebody who would be responsible for supervising various personnel. They might be involved with scheduling, with budgets. It's their responsibility to keep everything moving and going in the right direction. The production coordinator their role is kind of what it says really in the title. So organising things like the logistics of hiring crew, booking talent, making sure that equipment and tools have been secured, making sure that locations are ready. They are coordinating the production. Now, just in regard to the production manager, the production coordinator, the line producer, that might be the job of individual people, that might be the job of one single person, depending on the size of the crew and the size of the production and what's required. So one person might take on a lot of these roles and might cover a lot of these responsibilities all in one job role, depending on the size of the production. The script supervisor, now this is a really important role. The script supervisor tends to try and keep everything on track, so they normally track everything that's being shot. They know what has and hasn't been covered in a script. They know about blocking, they know about the props. They are normally the kind of brain of everything that's happening on set, so they will sometimes even be in charge of the continuity on set. You might, on a much bigger production, have somebody dedicated to continuity, but your script supervisor knows everything that's happening and has happened and is keeping track of all of that for the production. So the director, you probably all heard of, they're the person creating the artistic vision for the project. So they're responsible for any of the creative decisions. They normally take on the responsibility for the actor's performance, shot styles, camera positions. They're responsible for moving the plot forward and for the creative decisions that have to get the plot from A to B. Some productions have multiple assistant directors. The first assistant director assists the production manager and the director. So they keep everything moving on set. They generally are the communication hub. They communicate everything that's happening. They might even make some decisions and oversee some of the day-to-day management of the crew and make some of the decisions for like background artists and things like that. Often when you're working on set, your director will be watching everything and making decisions. They'll pass that on to their assistant director, who will bring that to the crew and the cast and kind of help to communicate what the director wants. It saves the director from getting up from where they're seated and speaking to people individually, and it keeps the production moving much more quickly and much more cohesively. The DP, or the director of photography, also known as the cinematographer, they generally work with the director to bring the look and the feel of a production to life. The DP are responsible for lighting decisions, the quality and colours of lighting, and the quality and colour of a lot of the shots. Sometimes the DP will provide input on things like camera angles and choices of movements, blocking sometimes where to put people for the best shot. So they're really they're making the visual decision on how best to use the camera to create those beautiful images and to get the mood and the feel for that shot. The camera operator, now on a smaller production, the DP might also be the camera operator. So the camera operator will help to move the production along by being the technical arm of the camera, so literally operating the machinery specifically. So that gives the DP freedom to make the decisions and the choices, and someone else is actually operating the machinery to be able to bring it to life. It just makes everything happen quicker and more smooth. But as I say, on smaller productions, they will often be the same person. You might find that you'll be working with a camera assistant. So the camera assistant is somebody who is dedicated to the camera's operation. They are a support for the cameraman or for the DP. They will fetch lenses, they will help with the setup of the camera, they'll help with the setup of the shot. They'll kind of do the running back and forwards to get, grab, bring. They are the sort of like another technical arm to being able to shoot. Camera assistants and camera operators really help to move things along, because they will often help to, break everything down at the end of the day, put everything together at the start of the day. They will often speed a lot of the processes up because it frees up the DP to do other things. The camera assistant will behave a little bit like a makeup assistant would, in they're there to really support the camera person or support the DP. The boom operator. So the boom operator is, you'll spot them really easily on set. They are the person holding the long boom mic. Their job is to get as close to the action as possible to pick up the best sound without getting in the way. They've got quite a difficult job really, because they are always handling a lot of equipment. So you have to be very careful moving around your boom operator, because you certainly don't want to get in their way, and you don't want to get a boom jabbed in your back either. So the boom operator it will probably be in the space with you as a makeup artist. You've just got to make sure you give them plenty of room. You might have a production sound mixer on set. So this is somebody who will be recording all of the sound. They might be recording the speech and also things like live tracks and background noise as well. You might see them fixing and attaching mics to different members of cast and crew to pick up sound, and they will generally be recording the sound and mixing it separately from anything that's happening within camera. They might also be working as a boom operator, or they might be working with a boom operator. The gaffer works with the director of photography to establish and shape the light in any production. Essentially, the gaffer is in charge of the way that the light works. They will place flags, nets, diffusers, filters, and any sort of gels or anything that are needed to colour or affect the light. Gaffers will traditionally work with camera operators, DPs, grips, electricians. They'll normally work as part of that core crew to help create the feel for the shot, the intensity for the shot, and to just kind of get the lighting perfect. And lighting's so key in any production that you really can't underestimate how important the gaffer's role is. You've probably heard the description of the grip. So the grip is somebody that is responsible for rigging and building on a production. So grips are responsible for building and rigging lighting. They're responsible for building and rigging dolly tracks and lighting accessories. If you've heard people refer to the key grip, that is somebody who is responsible for all the other grips. So you might only have one person on a set building, but you might actually have a team of people building different dollies and rigs. And if you've got several different units or production sites and scenes, then you might have a set of grips building while you're shooting in one location. So they'll be setting up ready for the next shots. So you might actually have quite a lot of those moving around on set setting up. The art director. So the art director works with the production designer, the set designer, props, and just basically all of the art department. The art director is responsible for helping to realise what the production physically looks like. So they work with the director to put the vision of the film together, the vision of the production together, and to bring it to life. Often the art director is in charge of brands and commercial looks. Also, an art director is really important when creating things like period pieces, or when there's a very specific style that needs to be brought out. The art director and the director will often work together to create that overall look. So that's some information on who's who on a set. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you again soon.